So, everybody, welcome. I really appreciate you being here. Basically, in the past, last year, I did talks in here, and in the talks, some of the feedback that I received is that there was a lot of information being put all in a very small amount of time. So what I wanted to do, or what we try to do, is basically kind of break the information a bit and add more into a particular subject, adding more depth to it. And so in that way we can get into issues more, talk about things, challenge things more, and basically be able to receive more growth for all of us. So I'm here to learn and to grow as well. So for me, that's a learning and a growing experience as well. For me, that's you are part of my evolution. So thank you very much for being here. I called it the New Human series because I am interested in some will say I'm very obsessive about two big issues. Everyone that comes here knows that I'm very interested in science, and especially neuroscience, and I am very interested in spirituality and personal development, and I've been kind of playing with these two for quite a while, and in some way my work as a chiropractor is an expression of those two subjects that I'm really passionate about. One of the things that I found is that the more you're starting to look into the research, you're starting to find some things that confirm what people that are, we'll say in the spiritual circles, were saying for thousands of years. And so to me that was intriguing. The thing that I found is that a lot of people have kind of like disconnect between some of what is coming up through science and what some of the spiritual, so-called spiritual learnings that existed, and there was some kind of disconnect. Things didn't go through. People knew stuff and they were talking about things, but they were not connecting. And so what I wanted to do was basically kind of like seeing if we can marry the two, and if we can actually challenge the way we think about ourselves. So today it will be a lot about the self, the way we view ourselves, the way we think about ourselves, because I think that that is the key to really a big shift. If we want to shift what's going on around us and in our life, I think that the key is starting from within. Yes? Ready? Let's play. So let's see if I can. So spiritual awakening, I continue, it's a quote, is about discovering what's true. Anything that's not about getting to the truth must be discarded. So this is from Jed McKenna. Now, for me, when I talk about spirituality, the way I now define spirituality or spiritual process, for me it is about eliminating anything, any belief systems, anything that is not true, that stops us being able to interact with our reality, interact with our, some people can say God, some people will say universal intelligence, whatever it is that creates that kind of filter of us interacting with the world around us, that anything that creates that filter that is disturbing that is in the way, for me that is the spiritual process. It's about removing it so you can have the most unfiltered interaction with it. And in that process, for me, one of the most important questions to be able to do that is asking what is true. So In the last, I would say, 2 or 3 years, is something that is really started kind of like becoming a second habit for me. Is any new information that comes is asking, is it true? Is it true, or is it or just a belief system? What is the truth? And some people will say that truth can be relative, and there is some level that might be true, but I'm saying that in the process, I think a very strong tool for me in spirituality is asking that question, is it true, and using that to know what to interact with and what. Okay, so this is a quote, I'll just read it by Daniel Kahneman. He says, "We're blind to our blindness. We have very little idea of how little we know. We're not designed to know how little we know." So basically, it's a long way of saying, the more I know that I don't know. And I can tell you 100% that that's true. I'm here standing in front of you and saying, I really know how much I don't know. So in here, I'm sharing with you how much I don't know. So thank you for not knowing with me all that I don't know. I will tell you, if I may, about Daniel Kahneman. I'm going to talk, it seems like Israeli, so I'm Israeli, but it just seems that Israeli, some of the people that I think are incredible thinkers, and I really, really follow their work, by chance are Israelis. So I didn't choose people because they're Israelis, by chance. Daniel Kahneman is an Israeli that lives in the US. He has worked, he received the Nobel Prize for Economics in 2003. He's a psychologist, he's not even an economist, but the reason he won the Nobel Prize for Economics is because he has found and he has researched how people make decisions. How people come to think that what they're thinking and how they make decisions, and very importantly, how they make financial decisions, how they make investment decisions, what makes people, how people think. And so he did the work with another Israeli named Amos Tversky, and Amos died in 1996, so he couldn't receive the Nobel Prize, but they basically created a revolution in the way we understand the way we humans think. The book that he wrote called Thinking Fast and Slow is a bestseller. You'll see it in all the airports and good bookshops. And so I like this slide. This is from The Matrix. I'm going to offer for you the blue pill and the red pill. So if you take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed, that's in your bed, and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill and you stay in Wonderland. That's Wonderland. So you see, I gave you the option to live. I'm going to look at some assumptions that we make. We automatically make those assumptions. I am one of those people that is making those assumptions. All humans, I find, make those assumptions. And I would like to see how much those assumptions are true, because those assumptions seems to be the thing that we are basing our life on. That's the things that we know to be true, and I just want to see, is it really true? So the first one is saying the reality we see, colors and sounds that I experience exist in the outside world, and it's concrete, it's real. So all the reality, external reality that I see, all of that is real, regardless if I look at it or not. Yeah. The second one is my memory. So when I think about my life, something that happened just 5 minutes ago, something that happened 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, everything I remember, all of that is like a video camera. I remember what happened, and that never changes. Yeah? Any events, any people I remember, all of that, completely true. I know and I understand the reasons for my beliefs. I know where they're coming from. And if I want to change my beliefs, I just look at that and I just change it. It's easy. I know why I am the way I am. I have free will, which I use to control and affect my life. So I'm in control. I can do whatever, like I choose to do things. I can, there's no way for me, like I'm a master of my own destiny. I can change my opinion. I can change my choices. And I'm in constant control of everything that is happening in my life. And the one that I find the most interesting is that there is an I, in this case me, Shalom, and this Shalom is the same Shalom that I was when I was 5, 15, 25, and 35. It's the same me. I'm the same identity, the same I is always there. It's continuous in all times, in all situations. I am really, really interested in neuroscience, and I'm, Alana is going to laugh, I am a chiropractor. So I work a lot with the nervous system, and the reason I'm really, really interested in the nervous system is because the nervous system is everything we are. Right now, my brain, my nervous system communicates to your nervous system, your brain. You are able to take the information, the words I'm saying, which you can hear, and you give it meaning, and all of that is happening through your nervous system. Now, I'm going to tell you something amazing. Each one of you here is completely unique. Never before, never after, you can have people like you here. Like each one of you is unique. And the reason for that is because you are the sum of all the different experiences you've ever had in your life, from the moment of conception, yeah, all the way through every interaction that you had throughout your life, every experience that you had created a very particular wiring of your nervous system and your brain. And as such, the tendency was always to think that, well, you have your brain, and the brain, you grow up and then your brain kind of stays the same. We know now that your brain is actually a shape shifter. It's constantly changing, constantly rewiring itself. So the person, from a point of view of my brain and the way my nervous system is, I am very different between when I was 5, 15, 25, and 35. My nervous system constantly wires itself. Every time there is an experience, and especially a big one, my nervous system is going through a rewiring and shift and change. And as a result of that, your identity, my identity, is a moving target. You never get there. You'll always keep changing. You'll always change and modify your nervous system because you keep having experiences. And by the way, your brain says that the experiences that you're having right now are very significant. Therefore, it kind of makes space for what's happening now. And many times it will do it by changing some of the things that happened in the past. Make them make something that might have been very, very strong memory, start making it less strong, shifting it, changing it, moving it to different compartments. So in actual fact, you're constantly changing. Most of us humans believe that all the decisions that we're making are based on logic. They're rational and they are made from a conscious point of view. This is your prefrontal lobe where we're doing a lot of our thinking. Well, this is completely wrong. The truth of the matter is that most of our behavior is coming from let's say 90% of our subconscious mind. I'm sure all of you have heard of that we are only conscious of 10% of what's going on, but most of what we do and we say and we think comes from actually the subconscious mind, which we don't have a conscious connection to it or access to it. And we're going to talk a lot about it. This comes from a book called Switch, very interesting book that basically talks about the fact that the conscious mind and the non-conscious mind, the subconscious mind, I'll call it like that. I'm really trying not to get into little kind of like, I'm going to make it conscious and everything else I'll just call subconscious. Just if there's professionals here that know that there are separations, I'm not making it right now. And so basically our subconscious mind is like an elephant. It has all the power, and the conscious mind is just that kind of rider that really needs to bribe, needs to be nice to the subconscious mind so it can go to where the conscious minds want to go. But in the moment you lose control of the subconscious mind, it seriously can do anything it wants, go to any direction it wants. And so the idea with that book Switch is to find strategies to be able to bring them together to work towards a particular decision. So examples for that is like you make a decision, I want to go on a diet, and then 2 days later you go to a party and there is a lot of great food, so it's not your fault, so maybe you can have the food now. You'll start the diet tomorrow, and then it's not happening the next day. And obviously there's friends, and there's the Friday night. And if you are Alana, then your boyfriend is going to a great steak restaurant, so you can't not eat there and not eat the pizza, so it never comes. And I made her red. That's my goal, to make her red. I enjoy that. Yes, it's true. So what is really real? So what research is showing that is really, really incredible is that as humans, our brain is constantly looking to give meaning to what happens. We are meaning-seeking machine. Our brain constantly is looking to find patterns in what's happening and find connection between things. That's what our brain is doing. And as a result of that, everything that you see, and this is a really important take-home point, is that nothing that happens in the external world, or let's say this, everything that you see in the external world that is happening outside of you, all of it is a function of who you are. It is a function of the observer that is looking at the events and giving it the meanings that it's being given. It's the one that is looking at it and giving it even its existence in that way. And we'll get into it a bit more, but that idea that external events don't occur or don't have meaning, don't occur without us constantly giving it the meaning, and that meaning and what is being seen is changing between a person to a person constantly. Yeah, and that's easy to demonstrate because you know that every time there is an accident, you'll have 30 different witnesses, and 30 different witnesses will say something slightly different. And we're going to talk about why is that the case. Now, this is something this is slide I have used for a long time. And then 4 or 5 days ago, I discovered that might not be true. And so here it is, me changing before presentation the information I'm giving you. So we always, the understanding, the traditional understanding of the way we look at reality is that there is some kind of stimulus which creates an emotion that goes through our filter. The filter is all our belief system, life experiences, all the things that we'll call us. and there is a filter, and that becomes, we filter all of that information, and then we create our behavior. Well, new research is showing that that's not actually true. And so let's ask this. How many emotions are you aware of?
Many. Too many.
Too many. Yeah, a lot. Anger, give me joy, sadness.
Disappointment, envy.
Yeah,
And
excitement.
inspiring.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah, and so what is amazing is that the new research, the new understanding is saying that that's not really the case. What it is saying is that in actual fact, there are only 4 different feelings that we feel in our body, which are pleasant, unpleasant, arousal, and calm. From the moment we are babies, that's all there is. 4 feelings that we feel in our body. And those feelings are just the expressions of the different chemicals, chemical changes that are happening in our body. And then what happens is our filter is creating interpretation that creates the emotion. So this is why one person might sit on a roller coaster and feel excitement, while the other one is feeling anxiety. And the thing is, they both feeling the same thing. It's just the brain gives it different meanings. So in actual fact, even when you are thinking about, it's obvious that I'm angry, it's obvious that I'm sad, it's obvious that I'm angry, all of that is not that obvious. In actual fact, it is very much possible that you have a feeling in your body and then your brain gave it a particular meaning. And that has very, I think, very far-reaching implications. So in some way, I like to think of the way that we as humans experience life as being sitting in a cinema, watching a movie. So in some way, and please don't grab to the words I'm using too much, but some way our consciousness is moving through our belief system, is the story that is happening in our head, all the things that are happening for us, and we are projecting it onto what we think is reality, and we're sitting in the cinema believing that the movie is real, while in actual fact, we are the ones that are creating the movie, and we are the ones that are experiencing it. And that means that everything you watch, so if I'm sitting in the cinema and I'm seeing, I don't know, Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, and I have, they are in the movie, they fight, and there's action, and I'm crying, and I'm sad, and I'm laughing. All of that is just an expression of what's going on for me, and not necessarily what is happening outside of me. It's not an objective reality. Questions? So, in some way, I would, so let's talk a bit about what is this that we're experiencing in the external environment. So, in the external environment, if you can think about it, is that we have, how many senses do we have? So the answer is 6. Yeah, and so the basic ones: smell, touch, taste, vision, and hearing, and proprioception. Yes. And so proprioception is the ability of a joint, every joint in our body, to know where it is located in space. Yeah, did I explain it right? Yeah? Yeah, body position in space. So look at this, I'm moving my finger behind my head. I can't smell it, I can't see it, I can't taste it, I can't hear it, but I know where it is. Yeah? And so every joint in our body has these receptors called proprioception, and this is our sixth sense. Okay? Now, the thing is, what happens is that we believe that what we see is what the eyes are bringing to the brain. We think that what we hear is what the brain is bringing in real life to the brain. But that's not true. What actually happens is that you don't see with your eyes, you see with your brain. You don't hear with your ears, you hear with your brain. And your brain constantly takes whatever the information that is coming in, and it kind of like puts a story together, and then it's telling you what's going on. So everything you're experiencing, including me right now, is in delay. Always in delay. Your brain constantly takes the information and gives it meaning. And then you experience it. Now because I'm sure people will say, okay, I don't really know what's the difference between you don't see with your eyes, you don't hear with your ears. So example is they will take a blind person and put some receptors on his tongue, and he will be able to see using his tongue. Or another very famous a person is his nickname is the Batman. So it's he's in the U.S. and he's a man. I think he's 53 years old now. That from very young age he lost his eyes to cancer, and so he was blind. But nobody has ever told him that blind people can't see. So he created a process called echolocating. So he clicks. And what he does, he rides the bike very fast. He walks. He does the things that we all do. He travels on mountains. He does all of that, but he constantly clicks. And by clicking, what the research is showing is that when he clicks, the parts of the brain that are created for vision, he sees. He really sees. He just doesn't have eyes. And that's amazing. Our brain sees, our ears hear, but we do it with the brain. Sorry, the brain does it, not the organs. Yeah. Again, the matrix. I love the matrix. So this is Morpheus. I'll just read if people can see it. What is real? How do you define real? If you're talking about what you can feel, what you can smell, what you can taste and see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain. So instead of thinking about the fact that taking for granted that everything is happening around me is real, it's really easy to think about it as my nervous system right now is having some kind of like electrical and chemical interactions that my brain is giving meaning to. So our nervous system is constantly, our brain constantly gives it meaning and form. Just beside the point, this is really fascinating. When they started doing surgeries, I'm sorry if I can't get into exact details, surgeries that allowed blind people to start seeing. So they gave a blind person that doesn't have a retina, a new retina. Guess what happened? They couldn't necessarily see. And the reason they couldn't necessarily see is because after a lifetime of not being able to use their eyes to create patterns in the brain, suddenly the brain couldn't see, even when information comes in. Sometimes it takes years before the eyes can learn, so the brain can learn how to use the eyes to create patterns in the brain, so the brain can see, yeah, which I think is really weird. So here I just put some examples of how our nervous system is taking information in and how accurate it is. So everyone knows that the sun is correct. And we see it yellow because it is going through the atmosphere. And when the wavelengths that are passing through the atmosphere get to our eyes our eyes give it the interpretation that it is yellow or orange. In actual fact, it's just white. And we know that it's the case because that's the rainbow. Rainbow, you have the white light going through a prism and creates all the colors that we see. So the point, I know that it sounds weird, I'm really trying to push that agenda that what we see is not because things are really yellow or red or green or blue, it's because our eyes give it that interpretation. And many people don't. So people that are colorblind can't see that. And there are people that will experience, for example, numbers as colors. And there are people that will experience sound as shapes and colors. So there are people that don't experience that their senses kind of like mix things together. Yeah. Again, the sky, of course, is not blue. The color blue is only because our eyes are giving it that meaning. It's just the wavelength of the light that comes through the atmosphere, and what we see is blue. By the way, I don't know that I know it's weird, but the blue that I see is the blue that you see. I have no way of knowing it. We just agreed that whatever we see here, that's blue, but we don't know if it is. You might see something completely different. Who knows? We just thought again to show you that. So, which color? Is A and B different colors? Or the same color? Yeah. Yeah. So don't worry. I won't. A and B are the same color. It's just an optical illusion. But even though I know it's an optical illusion, my brain still tells me that it is different. I still see B to be lighter than A, but they are exactly the same color. Yeah? So even if we know that it is an optical illusion, we still see it. So this is from, I think, a physicist, Goran Buckland. The way objects appear to us is a function of the mediating apparatus through which they appear. So basically, whatever we see comes through our nervous system, and that's why we see it the way we see it, because that's the way our nervous system is functioning. I don't know how would another animal, I always give the example of a bat, a dolphin, I don't know how they experience it. We don't have the same nervous system. This is why I would argue that if I feel this object in front of you, which in this case is a red apple, I might feel a smooth, round thing that is red. In actual fact, I have no objective, external way of knowing that that's true. It's just a function of the way my nervous system is perceiving it. And if a fly or a seal had an experience of it, they might see something completely different. They might feel it, and on top of the fact that, for example, a dog whistle, where I can kind of hear something, but dogs can really hear, that can really, really annoying. And so there's a lot of things that show you that things can happen that other animals can be aware of and we cannot. Yeah, and many, many examples. But, so I'm putting, I think, slides of, I just realized, I think I'm putting slides of all my idols. So I had to put Albert Einstein in, even if I made the point a million times, I had to put a quote. So reality is merely an illusion, albeit a very persistent one. Any questions up to here? Okay, so can we change the nervous system? So we can, of course, change the nervous system. We're doing it all the time in our practice here. It's being done with hypnotherapy. It is done with with acupuncture, it can be done all the time. We're constantly having it. Every time you have an interaction with any person, a loved one at work, you are changing your nervous system. Yeah? But I'm going to look at other possibilities. So, for example, I just chose some funny examples. Research people that had epilepsy. They had epilepsy, and as a result of that, became very religious, enormously religious. So there were cases of, there was one example that comes into mind of a woman that was just like a woman, an American woman, just in the Midwest in the US. She had massive seizure, and as a result, and after that, she started becoming a really, really devout Christian, just out of the blue. So the question is, did she change? How is that happening? People that had Parkinson's were shown to become less religious. Suddenly they develop, as they develop the disease, the disorder, it affects their belief in God. Something that looks innate to who we are, that can change. And of course, Parkinson medication can make some people compulsive gamblers. Something that completely not related, and the nervous system is going through some kind of change, and that change really modifies the behavior in a very, very dramatic way. Now, some people will argue, well, Shalom, all of that is nice and good, really. But the thing that makes me me is my memories. It's all my life. I remember where I was born, my parents, you can't take that away from me. This makes me me. I am my memories. Well, I'm here to tell you that's not really true. So what happened is that the research is showing that as we are getting older, our memories that we think is something that is there all the time constantly modify. They change all the time. And they are affected by things that we're going to talk about, but they, even things that we think are events that really shifted and changed who we are as a person, even those things are not.
No, you can't say.
They're not. They're not. They even change in our mind. They're constantly being modified. They're constantly being, I'm sorry, I need help with that word, contextualized. We give it different context, different meanings. Let's see if people can feel the last word in it. That's what's called priming. In this slide, you're being primed. Your mind, the way you're thinking is being primed towards giving a particular answer. There's no information here that tells you anything else other than other things that are pushing you towards that. Yeah, and that actually happens all the time. You're being primed all the time to do things. So for example, if I ask you about your family or a family of friends, and I'm getting you to hold a warm cup in your hands, you'll start thinking of them in a very nice way. But if I give you a cold drink in your hand, you'll start thinking they're assholes. You're starting to think of them in a lot more negative kind of way, just by changing what you're holding. To me, that's insane. That's crazy. I can really play with that. If I get you to sit in a room that has really, really bad smell, whatever you see around you, you'll start judging as really immoral behavior. So I can give you particular behaviors and you'll have one reaction to it. I'll just subject you to bad smell and you start being very judgmental just because there is a smell of poo around you. Now, this is actually being used more and more by governments and agencies around us and supermarkets. So for example, if I want to get you to change your I want you to get on a healthy diet, one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to put very, very healthy food when you get into the supermarket in the level of your eyes. Yeah? Or another thing, for example, in the US, if you're working in a particular job, you already you enrolled automatically into a particular type of superannuation. And if you don't want that, then you change. But they automatically do things for you. They're priming you into the right behavior, but you always have the free choice to change that. And that is something that is right now happening all over the world. In the US and in Australia, constantly they're trying to create the conditions for you to do particular behavior, for good and for bad, of course. You know that in supermarkets, and if you have kids and you're walking and you have all the candies just next to the cashiers, you know how annoying it is.
It's quite scary how big it might
Because there is more, because of the work of someone like Daniel Kahneman, that showed that people don't always do what's good for them. We have the tendency to think that what we're doing is rational. And what Daniel Kahneman and other research showed us is that we don't do always the rational thing. We make an emotional decision and then we justify it with our rational mind. And he found that we have tendencies of the way we think about things. And so what big organization now, governments, and of course shops and everything we interact with, say they understand that and then they use it. They use it for to sell you a product, or they're selling you a service, or they doing something that is positive for you. Something simple that I can show it is someone that when you join a gym, they say, okay, you can't pay to every class that you're coming, you're going to pay that much for all those lessons. That is priming you, because you don't want to lose money, to come and participate in those lessons. Creating contracts, because those contracts force you into a particular behavior. Yeah, so you can think of it as good, you can think of it as bad. Magicians use it a lot. So I'm very intrigued with people that are mentalists, that seem to be reading people's mind and knowing what they will do. And then after being exposed to that, I started looking at what they're doing and how they're priming people to make choices that the people believe is completely a free choice, and in actual fact, the magician, the mentalist, is completely in control. He knows exactly what's going to happen. Yeah? I love that. I love that. I find it really interesting. Another example of priming, this is just to show you how it can be done, is that they so this is looking at memory. They took two groups of people, they showed them a movie of cars colliding, and then they asked one group of people, how fast were the cars going when they hit each other? And while the other group got the question, how fast were the cars going when they smashed into each other? And then they looked at the statistics of what people, how they answered the questions after that. So for example, if when they were asked a week later, was there any broken glass, group B that was asked smashed into reported more broken glass than group A. That's how they remember things. Not only that, you can, when you use those kind of leading words, you might calculate, if they ask how fast they went, one will say they went really fast and say, let's say, went 120, and the other one might say 90. You can really control how people think about it. I would like just to give that example. They asked people that went to Disneyland a week after they came back from Disneyland, what did you think of the Bugs Bunny, the Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck big mascots? You know, what did you think about that? Were they good? Did your kids enjoy playing with them? What did you think of the experience? And 25% of people responded and said they were fantastic. My kids really loved them. And the thing is, There is no Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck in Disneyland. It's a Warner Brother thing. You can plant memories into people's minds, and their imagination will really, really make it bigger and bigger. Yeah. Now that's one that amused me no end. That's another way of controlling people's behavior. So this is a little sticker of a fly sitting inside the urinal for men. And basically they found that if you put the fly there, men will aim better. Men will stop peeing around and aim better. Yeah, and then when I saw that, I remember that when I was living still in Israel with my parents, my dad bought at night when you go when I would go to pee, and you lifted the toilet seat, there was like colors inside, like a bingo thing. So you you aim towards constantly the center of it. So very smart. I'm sure I still peed on the side, but you know, like. So that's example of how you can prime people to a particular behavior, even when they think they have a completely free choice on what they do. Yeah. So this is Charles Whitman. Now we're going into a completely different place. So Charles Whitman, a really, really kind and nice man. This is now going now into what happens when there is real pathology that occurs in the nervous system and the brain. Really nice man, 25 years old, has a mother that he loves very much. He's married happily to a woman, going to have a baby together. And the 1st of August 1963, this really nice man climbs on a tower in Dallas, Texas, in the University of Dallas, and he starts shooting.
Oh yeah, I remember the case.
Yeah, killing 15 people. In actual fact, it's 17 people, and wounding 31. And then he was himself shot. I can't remember if he committed suicide or he was shot. He committed suicide. And then basically when they went home, they found that he has murdered his wife and unborn child and his very, very beautiful mother the night before. Yeah, I'm sure it sounds a bit eerie when you are thinking about what just happened in the US. And the reason I wanted to put it to you is because of his suicide note. So he left a suicide note, a very long one. There's a lot in it, but I just would like to read what he says. He says, "I do not quite understand what is that compels me to type this letter. Perhaps it is to leave some vague reason for the actions I have recently performed. I do not really understand myself these days. I'm supposed to be an average, reasonable, and intelligent young man." By the way, his IQ test showed that he was highly intelligent, very intelligent man. However, lately I have been a victim of many unusual and irrational thoughts. These thoughts constantly recur, and it requires a tremendous mental effort to concentrate on useful and progressive tasks. That's the night before. One of the things that Charles Whitman asked to do is, after his death, he asked, "Can you please do an autopsy on my body and on my brain, because I think something is wrong with me." And they did, and they found that he had a tumor sitting inside his limbic system, exactly the part of the brain that is responsible for anger and violence and aggression. And yes, this is another a famous case. I don't know if it is from the US or Australia, I can't remember, but this is a man in his 40s, really normal person that at the age of 40 started having very irrational thoughts about pedophilia, about young children. Now, in the same time that he started collecting all these very unusual journals and information and movies and whatever it is that he collected, he had some really severe headaches. And so he went to the doctor and they found that he had a tumor in his brain. They removed the tumor and that interest disappeared. So you can see here the tumor inside the brain. They removed the tumor and all this pedophilic behavior disappeared. 3 years later, he started getting very interested again in the same kind of content. And again, they found that his tumor came back. So in here, we're talking about some very pathological behavior that is directly influenced by something that the brain is doing. Something that we might think is just part of who he is. And so another example, and I know that I hope no one will be angry with me in choosing this example, but that's the research I found. So just show of hand, men go to a strip club. The choice to tip the stripper, how much of that is a free choice? How the amount that they're tipping, how much do you think that is choice, free choice? None. True. In actual fact, what they found is that there is a direct correlation between the how fertile the woman is and the tipping. The subconscious mind of the man is finding the signs. He can see it, I don't know what are the signs exactly, but his brain receives the information that this woman is fertile, and he will tip her, double the normal. So if she has her period, tips reduce by half. Yes, that's exactly right. So this is something that looks, sorry? The tipping sense, yes. But the man thinks he's making a choice that is just like a free choice, but in actual fact, his biology, his brain, his senses, his very primal brain is pushing in towards a particular behavior. By the way, that's the same thing was done, for example, by showing men photograph of women, and one of them just the photograph of the woman. In the other one, they just dilated the eyes slightly, just a little bit more, and the men would say this woman is, the women with the dilated eyes are a lot more attractive, they're a lot nicer and a lot warmer. Just because their eyes dilate more, and the brain of a man is looking for that, because that shows that a woman is interested in him. Names and professions. So they found an incredible correlation between the choice of people's names, what's their name, and the profession that they choose. And so we gave the example of Alana that chose to be an acupuncturist. So that is really, really interesting. I can't find a connection between Shalom or Nahum or Dreamer and chiropractic, but it's an interesting, yes. I'm thinking Tegan, psychologist, no. Therapy, yes. Yeah, really interesting. And more than that, names of people and their partners. So Jane will choose a Jeremy, or I have friends that are Janelle and Jeremy. There seems to be a very, very direct connection between people's names and the choices that they're making. I just thought I'll send it to you. Okay, so this is an experiment that I think literally really shifted the way I think about the whole thing. That was the key, the gate to me going into all these things that we're talking about free will. And so this is an experiment that was done. People that have seen me talk about it in the past, I'm sure you've heard me saying it. I'll just describe it again to people that have not. So they put people into a functional MRI machine and asked those people to make a decision between right button, I think it was green, the other one was yellow, and asked them, when did you make the decision and what did you choose? And the people that are making the decision feeling that they're making a conscious decision at the time. So for example, it will look like this. I'm lying inside the functional MRI machine and I'm like, okay, I decided now, right, now. They basically say, well, I made the choice, and they do whatever they do. And it's quite boring for the person inside the machine, except the fact that the person that is outside looking into the brain of the person, they could, with very high accuracy, predict what the person is going to choose 6 to 10 seconds before the person made that decision.
Wow.
That's how I reacted. What? 6 to 10 seconds. That means that you are driving on a road, and let's say that it's completely random what you're going to do. You're going to choose to go right or left. It doesn't matter to what you're going to do. You're driving, and then you decide, okay, I'm going to now drive to the right. 6 to 10 seconds before that, someone that looked at your brain would have known what you're going to choose freely. That blew my mind. They did the same thing with the experiment when they did the Wild Wild West thing, where they got someone to pull the gun and shoot against someone that is looking into the brain. They created some kind of an experiment that is replicating that, and they always beat the person. Even when they thought he's making a decision, I'm going to pull the gun. No. Person knows ahead of that 6 to 10 seconds what you're going to do. Accurately. That's really, really interesting. This is another experiment, and that is even more, I think, more mind-boggling. So, what happens? This is a machine called TMS. I forgot to check exactly what TMS stands for, but I think it's trans something. I cannot remember what TMS stands for, but that's the name of this kind of, it's like a magnet that you can put on people's heads. And they basically got people to choose a hand that they're going to lift, right or left. And then when the cue is given, they can change their mind, or they can do the thing that they decided to do. It's up to them, okay? So the experiment is, you understand the experiment? They basically put it on the head of a person, saying choose to lift your right hand or the left hand, but you can change it. Just tell us if you change your mind. And so what happened is that the research people, the ones that are doing it, they're like, I'm choosing to put my right hand. I did this, but I changed my mind. I was going to do right, but now I decided to do left, and I put my left hand. The thing is, what the people didn't know is that the researchers were stimulating their brain to shift their decision. So now a person is changing their mind to lift their left arm, thinking they made a free choice to lift their arm. In actual fact, no, someone already did that for them, but for the person it feels like they made a free choice. So that's the important part. When we're talking about free will, it's not that it doesn't feel like someone is forcing you to do that. You feel you're making a decision. The thing is, I'm arguing that it's not really free. It is predetermined in other ways. The same thing then when they did that experiment with mice. They forced the mice to do behaviors that they will never do, like jumping into water or jumping from great heights, and the mice did that. because they felt like doing it. And one more example, just because I had to push the agenda and I never know limits and I always go overboard, they got people to play computer games. And in the computer game, they were doing all, there was animation. This is something Alana chose. What's the game here? Sims? Sims? Yeah. So where you, can you explain what the game is?
Sims basically like...
Yeah. And then they ask people, why did you do the things that you did? What was the decision? Why did you try to do A? Why did you go from this side? Why did you do what you did? And people explained it. And the thing that is so incredible is that at no point of time people were in control. None. Not in every one, not one moment these people were in any control, but in their mind, they felt like they have reasoning to do the things that they had no control of. And for example, one of the things that they found is with people that had brain trauma, there's a very special case of someone that his memories are not more than, I can't remember more than 30 seconds, I think, into the past, 1 minute, I can't remember. And what happens is he will have a conversation with you and then forget who you are and start another conversation. And they found that this person will keep on creating stories of why he's having the conversation with you, what he did, who you are. Like, for example, yeah, of course I remember you this, and go through an elaborate story that is completely truthful. He doesn't know who you are, but his mind will create a story to give meaning to the person that is standing in front of him. So for me, when I'm looking at responsibility, when we're talking about a person is responsible for their action, yeah. So to me, what it means is it presupposes that the person has a freedom, which presupposes that the person can do something or not do something, and that the person can do something otherwise. So if that's the question, I would like to know, do you think that taking all the information that I'm saying, is there something like that, like responsibility? Can I hold, for example, let me push buttons. Can I hold the person with the shooter from the Texas? Should I take the Texas shooter? Should I take them to jail or to the hospital?
Hospital.
Yeah. Like I'm asking, knowing the things that I'm saying, you're looking around. You're looking at someone that has, like for example, the pedophilia, another tumor. Is there something like that that we can say there is something like responsibility? Can I hold someone responsible?
Yeah, but he knew that there is something wrong about him. So why he didn't act before?
Who are you talking about now?
The shooter.
The shooter.
Yeah.
He knew that something is wrong with him.
That's why he wrote the note.
Correct. He said,
He
"I
knew that
feel
there is
something not right."
wrong.
Yeah.
So I would tell him.
Yeah. So, just for the example, and put the same tumor in your brain exactly in the same place. But let me do a bit better. I'm going to take every experience he had in his life from the moment he is born until that moment, and I'm going to give that to you.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me with 100% certainty that you could behave differently than him?
No, I can't.
I really cannot say I will do something differently if I have exactly the same wiring, the same as this person. When I got it, for me, I felt that I lost my ability to judge people. I lost my ability to judge people. I can't say that someone is good or bad. I just can't say that because I'm judging them from my own point of view. I'm not saying that there is a right or wrong answer. This information, understanding it, brought me to a place where I started looking around and in a space of being a lot more accepting and seeing that people are where they are as a function of everything they had, and I can't actually say that I could have done things differently.
I had
Of what happened in Las Vegas, when I heard Donald Trump referring to what happened as pure evil, I could not have felt more different. I did not think of it as evil. I can't think of this person as evil because. Sorry? I just don't. I cannot say that I don't know what was happening there. I have no idea. I don't know what created it. I have no place even to judge it in any way. It's now, if you ask me, if he was caught alive, would I have put him in jail? My answer is most probably yes. I would check what's wrong with him, but I'm not saying that people should not be moved away from society so they can't harm people or kids or whatever it is. I would do that, but I would not do it as punishment. I do not, to me anymore, the idea of punishment or justice does not make any sense with all the information. Does not. And that was one of the things that I wanted, one of those takeaway points. If you think about it this way, all the people around you, your family, parents, brothers, sisters, friends, all of them, if you think of the stranger in the street, if you think of them as just the outcome of all the different things that happen in their life, you just can't be in a space of, well, they are evil, they're assholes. Yeah. Go to another exercise. So any person here had a thought, I'm too fat?
Yes.
Fantastic. How many people here thought I'm not smart enough, not good enough? Yeah. Now, here's a question that started bothering me. Most likely, I'm kind of like...
True, you're not.
It's true. But this is amazing, because all of us believe it's true. All of us had that thought, and all of us believe it's true. I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable, sorry, I'm not smart enough, I'm not rich enough, whatever it is, that crossed our mind. My question is, if all of us had that thought, how unique is that thought? How much of me, Shalom Drimer, made that decision to have that thought? If every one of you have, how true is that thought? If I actually, do you know what I'm trying to say? If all of us have that thought, it's not really a unique thought. It's just...
We've all come to it differently, haven't we?
Yes, but we all get to the same kind of thought. It's really like everyone has it. Somehow that's really interesting. And then came an interesting idea that really surprised me. And this is, Tegan will know about it more than, Tegan is a psychologist. And so this is an interesting approach. So through, correct me if I'm wrong, but through psychotherapy, there were a lot of views, someone like Freud, that talked about the fact that, you know, every thought connects to some thing that you had in your childhood and you were in love with your mom, so you have those thoughts. And there's, yeah, this is where a lot of talking therapy coming from, is to see why you have the thoughts that you have and can we modify it. But an interesting thought that, or a new approach that is kind of being examined, is that we as humans have a thing about us. We think. We have thoughts. Part of the human condition is to have thoughts. And possibly, breathe in, breathe out, most of our thoughts are nonsense. Most of the things that we are occupied with, that we're thinking about, and really, really we constantly interact with, possibly is not that meaningful. It might be just kind of like part of the human condition. It's part of what it is to be a human, is having thoughts. And our brain is a thoughts generating organism. Yeah, am I saying it's correct? Yeah. That's an interesting thought. That's a really interesting concept. So, like, what happens, or who would you be if you did not believe 95% of the thoughts that are going in your head, how would you feel?
How could we know?
So the only thing that keeps you from feeling free and happy and joyful is the fact that you somehow choose or not to be occupied with all those thoughts. Even that might not, I'll accept what you're saying, because on that level you have a free choice, free will to listen to your thoughts or not, but even that is a function of the way your brain is wired.
Yeah.
Albert Einstein, really nice quote about ego. So the more knowledge you have, your ego is becoming smaller, and the lesser the knowledge, the more the ego. And so that's kind of like the more you know, the more you know that how much you don't know. But I'm going to kind of play with that idea of the ego. So I'm going to name something that I know that you talk a lot about, I think, ego. People know about ego, and I'm going to name it. For 1 second, for the purpose of this conversation, I'm going to say that the ego is absolutely the sum of everything, from your beliefs about yourself, about society, the way you construct reality, what your parents told you, what society thinks you, all your fears, your thoughts, all of that I'm going to call the ego. Yeah?
Okay.
Now, my question is, what will happen if I can say all of those things are all, to large extent, false? All of it, all my beliefs and all of them, they're actually not real. They're just projection of what my brain, that human condition. What will happen if what will happen to the person if that person can actually start ignoring that? What if they can erase it? If they can remove, interact, minimize that amount of ego? What if I can increase the amount of knowledge about myself in a way that will minimize the ego, like Albert Einstein was talking about? What if I can, at some level, start challenging all of those things? So if I challenge those things, can I have a different kind of existence? Would I have a different interaction with reality?
Absolutely.
Yeah? So it's just a question, can we do it? And so I would like to introduce to you a process which is called autolysis. It's not my tool, it's a tool that came from a man called Jed McKenna. I know nothing about Jed McKenna. I quote him a lot. I don't know much about him. It's a pseudonym of a person that doesn't want to be known. I understand that because he has no ego. But he called it a spiritual autolysis. So autolysis is a process that occurs where it occurs in our body all the time, where, for example, a cell that has a virus in it will signal to the environment that I'm infected and please kill me. Please, it's like self-digestion. So this is how our body deals with cancer. It says, I have cancer inside, destroy me. Please, flag, destroy me. Yeah? And so that idea of autolysis is basically the ability to self-observe, and a result of that, the ability to ask what's true about myself, what's not, and by that, starting to kind of deal with all this, with this ego, with all this belief system. And so I thought that we can do an experience of that. Yeah?
Yes.
Yay, let's play. So in the exercise, what I got you to do is ask, what am I not, or who am I not? And something that is true cannot be dependent on time. It cannot be dependent on time, on space. Would you agree with me that truth exists all the time? Otherwise, it's not true. If there is something outside of truth, then it's not true. If truth is correct just in a particular time and space, therefore there's another bigger truth, and that's not true anymore.
Okay, can I share?
They have something very, it's great. The thing is, there is I am happy. So right now, I am who I am is happy to believe
Yeah.
in ta-ta-tam. So now I created conditions for who I am. So I still didn't find something true about yourself. I am, and I want that I am that is beyond beliefs, beyond beyond all the things that we were talking about, that all of those. I want to go beyond your beliefs about yourself, beyond beliefs around you, your assumptions, your fears, your thoughts, beyond all of that. What is true about you? Who are you? What is true? I am. That's a really hard question, I think. So, can you write that? I exist. Yeah, that's I will be there, so you exist. Going to happen. Yes. Great, I'm happy. It took me 2 years to get there. So, yeah.
We're not here to compare anything. We're just different goals.
Yeah, I'm not feeling that I'm competing with you, but without a doubt, my ego is challenged right now. My ego is challenged right now. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Just sharing here, yes. So I just want to thank you very much. I know that these two exercises were really can be really tricky, really challenging, and I hope you'll take them out of here and keep thinking about it, because I feel that they can be really profound. Someone named it the truth virus. Just as an introduction to what I'm going to talk about next, and kind of like starting to conclude a little bit, is I just wanted to put two words that coming from, help me, is that from Hinduism?
That's the context I've learned.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah. So just this is just a word. I'm using a concept, not because the concept is true, it's because that concept helps us to think about things in a particular way. Like the map is not the territory. It's just a concept of the territory. So I just would like to introduce the word Maya. And so for me, Maya is, or for what I'm going to talk about, Maya is the sum of all the things that I talked about. All the ego and the understanding that things that, that external world, everything I see to some extent is just is my filter, it's my story, it's just my nervous system is perceiving all of that, which is in actual fact not true. It's finite and it exists in time and space. Yeah, because what I'm seeing just exists in time and space. I will call Maya. And so in Hinduism, they I think talk about Atman, which is that is beyond that. But we won't get into it too much, but it's a very powerful concept of everything that is beyond time and space is called Atman. So through my, when I was in all my journeys, I found some kind of like 3 principles that I have found in different places, and I have found through my work to be very powerful in helping people to shift their life. And so the 3 concepts I call the 3 universal principles is the number 1 is mind. So there is a field of intelligence behind life. That is field that makes galaxies, makes the oceans go, stars running, that field of intelligence that our body is part of. That's why if I get scratched, my body knows how to heal itself. That kind of like the field that is around us. I believe, like you do, possibly, hopefully, that intelligence, that field of intelligence is not, doesn't have morality. I believe that doesn't care what if I go to to synagogue on Sabbath, on Friday, or on Sunday to the church. Doesn't care. He doesn't care if I wear white or black. He doesn't care if I grow a beard or not. It's just there, a field of intelligence. And the way I know it's there is because it is observable. I can see it in everything that is happening around me. Yeah, I put no morality to it. Different people call it different things: consciousness, universal intelligence, or God, whatever people want to call it. The second thing is, I have found that humans have a particular capacity, and that capacity is to be aware. I am aware. Right now, I am aware of the floor, I'm aware of you, I'm aware of my clothes. I have the capacity to be aware. That's it. If I don't, I know that all the thoughts that I have, all of that things, they're not really real, but I know that as human, I have the ability to be aware. And the third one is Maya. Maya is that individual and collective experiences of reality, all the things that I described before. I know Maya not to be true. I know that it's not true. It looks real to me. It is really, really, really looks real. I just don't know that it's true. I know it's not true because I have checked what's true and none of it is true. I can't trust anything that I see or hear because all of that is just a function of what my nervous system is doing. Now here's the thing that I find to be really, really incredible. In my work, every time I found that people could connect to the feeling or of that mind, of that space, where instead of focusing on believing all the thoughts and focusing on what I see and the judgment of what's happening and this is good and that's bad, people were just able to connect to that field of intelligence, that being able to observe that they can be aware, they have an awareness of that field around them, magic happens. I mean, real magic happens. Somehow, in a really weird way, people feel more peaceful.
What do you mean?
Can you, for 1 second, have an awareness of that field around you? That we are in things are happening, nature occurs, galaxies, the universe is absolutely enormous, the earth is just part of that massive, if you believe that, whatever it is, but do you have an awareness of that field that we live in, that computer game we live in? Can you have an awareness of it? And then, can I get you to just be aware? Just aware for 1 second in what is happening here and now. Okay, whatever you feel with your feet, your hands, whatever, can for 1 second, can you be aware? Because someone else chose those words.
Yeah.
They're not my words. I just chose a model that someone talked about. In this case, the seed banks. It's a model and he named it mind and consciousness. I name it differently. I think of this as consciousness. I just chose a model that someone talked about because I found that to be useful. But it's not that I like the words that they chose very well. A thought that crossed my mind is that on some level we are snowflakes. I heard someone explaining about snowflakes, I can't remember where, and I thought, wow, that's a great description, possibly, of who we are, I think. Which is basically very unique. There is no snowflake that is the same as the others. It's made out of the same material. It's something, it's not nothing, but that something is just water frozen around a bit of dust. It's not nothing, but it's not the something that we make it to be. And if it, by the way, if it's very big, it can be very painful and can break the window of my car, but that's really beside the point. So I don't know if it feels useful for you. So in conclusion, I hope you'll take from it whatever you heard me saying, and most likely it's going to be each one of you will hear something differently, but it will be wonderful if we can all acknowledge that we are just the sum of all our experiences. We experience what our nervous system allows us to experience, how we were created, and in some way we are all having that story. And the thing that I would really, really like to encourage you is that by helping to challenge those beliefs, by being able to ask that what's true, what is not true, by knowing that although it looks very real, we believe the things are real, in the moment we challenge it, we're starting to see a completely different picture. We're starting to see a reality that is a lot more richer and fuller and is not divided in good or bad, up or down, but it's just life has many, many, many colors, and they all are perfect just the way they are. And so if what my talk is helpful to move you in that direction, that will be amazing. So this is my talk. It's good. Thank you for being here. So today was, as you can see, I was focusing a lot on the self, and the next time I'm going hopefully, I'll see if I can have that sentence. So I thought I'll put a sentence that will completely be like, what? But I just thought I'll do that to you. So next time I'm going to talk more about us in relation to the environment, us in relation to other people, I'm going to kind of like start touching things like that you hear around like the law of attraction and positive thinking, and if you think positive, this will happen. I'm going to start kind of like push into that and talk about this massive sentence that I wrote just to annoy you because it's really big sentence. And so I'll just, for people that are hearing the recording, I wrote, humans are deterministic creatures in a probabilistic universe, just to say, what? So if you can come next time to hear what it is, what it means. Thank you very much.